All right, let's talk about John Deere because there's this massive paradox at the heart of their business right now. How does a company that is all about farming make an absolute killing when the farming world is, well, not doing so great? It just doesn't seem to make sense, right? But that's exactly what's happening, so we're going to dig in and unpack this whole thing. So picture this. On one side, you've got sales of their big ag equipment, the giant tractors and combines, actually going down. Farmers are having a tough go of it, so they're buying less. But then you look at the other side of the ledger, and somehow Deere is still pulling in over $5 billion in that income. It's like, wait, what? How do those two things even exist in the same universe? So yeah, that's the big question we're trying to answer here. How in the world is John Deere making this work? And the answer, it's actually pretty fascinating. It tells us a lot about how a company can not just survive a storm, but actually use it to build something even stronger for the future. Okay, so to really get what's going on, we have to look at their financials for 2025. Even their CEO, John May, called it a year full of significant challenges and uncertainty. And that's putting it mildly. It's kind of a classic case of a surprisingly good, bad year. And the key phrase you're going to hear a lot is this idea of through-cycle resilience. It sounds like a bit of business jargon, but what it really means is having the ability to stay strong and profitable even when your main market is in a slump. And this wasn't some happy accident for Deere. Their CFO has been very clear. They have been intentionally building this resilience right into the DNA of the company for years. And believe me, that resilience was put to the test. Big time. It wasn't just a slow market they were dealing with. Nope. They were getting hit by two major headwinds at the exact same time. So what were these headwinds? Well, first, you had the farm market itself, which was, in their own words, subdued. That's a nice way of saying farmers were tightening their belts and not buying a lot of big new equipment. And then on top of that, they got slammed with these huge costs from tariffs, something totally out of their control. And when I say huge costs, I'm not kidding. Just to put this in perspective, Deere is projecting that tariffs alone are going to cost them an extra $1.2 billion in 2026. Billion with a B. That is an absolutely staggering amount of money for any company to have to absorb. All right, so you've got a weak market, and you've got this billion-dollar bill coming at you. What do? Well, Deere didn't just sit back and take it. They went on the offensive. They launched a really powerful counterpunch. And their strategy really boils down to two key moves. It's a classic 1-2 punch. First, they diversified like crazy, leaning on other parts of their business to make up for the weak spots. And second, they went all in on technology and innovation. You can see this diversification strategy perfectly in their 2026 forecast. Look, their main moneymaker, the big ag stuff, is expected to be down. But they're projecting growth in construction and forestry, and also in their small ag and turf division. So those other parts of the business are stepping up to fill the gap. That's the strategy, right there in the numbers. Okay, so that was punch number 1, diversification. Now for punch number 2, the tech stack. See, you have to understand, John Deere isn't just a tractor company anymore, not by a long shot. They are a tech company that happens to build tractors, and they are constantly talking about their tech stack, basically a whole suite of high-tech tools designed to make farming way smarter and a lot more profitable. And we're not just talking about some fancy buzzwords here. This is real, honest-to-goodness, game-changing stuff. I'm talking about things like See and Spray, which uses AI to spot and spray individual weeds. That cuts herbicide use like you wouldn't believe. They have kits that literally make tractors drive themselves. They've got satellite internet for fields in the middle of nowhere and a digital command center to manage the entire farm. It's wild. But here's the million-dollar question, or in this case, the $20,000 question. Does this tech actually make a difference? Well, get this. One of Deere's top X shared this story about a customer out in Washington state. This farmer saved over $20,000 in one single day, just by using their See and Spray system. That's not a small improvement, folks. That is a straight-up revolution for a farmer's wallet. So, with that 1-2 punch of diversification and high-tech innovation, what's the game plan looking like for 2026? Well, this is where it all comes together beautifully. You look at the forecast and it's crystal clear. The dip in their big ag sales is being balanced out almost perfectly by the growth they're expecting everywhere else. This is the proof, right here in black and white, of that through-cycle resilience we were talking about earlier. This is about way more than just numbers on a spreadsheet, though. The really big story, the one that goes beyond the balance sheet, is how Deere's strategy is completely changing what farming itself is going to look like in the future. Just listen to this quote from a farmer in Illinois who's using one of their self-driving tractors. He said it was invaluable, not just helpful, invaluable, because there just isn't anyone around to do the work. This tech isn't a luxury. It's solving one of the biggest, most fundamental problems in farming today, finding enough people to actually do the job. And that, right there, leads to a much, much bigger thought. Deere is already taking this autonomous tech and putting it into lawnmowers and construction equipment. So it really makes you think, if a giant, complex machine like a tractor can work a field all by itself, what can't? What happens next? What does our world even look like when a massive barrier like the availability of human labor just starts to disappear?